I'm Scott Gerschwer. I head the marketing department at Compart North America. Some of you from Europe may know Compart AG. It's a German company, German software company. We're not as well known here in the U.S. and Canada, but I'm working on it. If you are in the IT community, maybe this would be, well, it's just not the kind of I think I was enamored with it like 20 years ago when I first started hearing it, when I first got into technology, and that lasted like 2 years. But I still hear it all the time, and I'm still fairly certain that most of what I'm hearing is, a lot of, I hate to call it gibberish, but certainly more complex than it needs to be. So I'm gonna try to dumb things down a little bit, if you don't mind. However, there are some trends that we can't ignore, and the one that I think is taking over the business world by storm is digital transformation. And you can see the growth here on Google Trends of how many people are searching for digital transformation. And just from a show of hands, how many people here are involved in some way or another in digital transformation? Not as many as I would think. That's kind of interesting. Does it mean something different to different people? What does it mean to you? This is interactive. You can actually speak back. No need to raise hands or anything. What does digital transformation mean to you?
Taking hard copy processes and moving them to a purely digital.
Okay, that's one, and it's sort of, when you say hard copy, I guess you're talking about documents right there, right? Okay. So yeah, this is a document-centric audience. I guess that fits, right? But it's also all of these, all of the process. Yes, sir.
I would say it's more encompassing than that. Basically changing standard operating procedures,
right,
to take advantage of the economies of scale, the things that can be done better with digital processes.
If I had a prize, I would give it to you, but I don't have any. Sorry, but I would give you. Yeah, but that's right. And I think for a lot of people in the IT world, that's what it means. What we're looking at is a way to drive operational flexibility, innovation, but not innovation for innovation's sake, innovation just to do things better. And I'm focused, because I'm in marketing and I kind of own this, on customer experience, to make the customer experience better. And I would contend that in a number of different industries, the way a customer experiences a brand is through documents. It's through billing. It's through statements, and it's through the communication that goes back and forth between you. And how happy you are as a customer depends on how much you trust a brand, and how much you agree with them. And obviously the number one reason to call a business and complain is because you don't think the price is fair, or you think you're getting charged for something that you didn't agree to. And these are egregious violations of trust, and they erode the brand, and it's important not to do that. The challenges of digital transformation are very much these legacy systems, these older systems, IT systems, and a lot of disconnects in the processes. And where we are in digital transformation can be seen in this chart by IDC, and this is very much a bell curve, right? This is a classic bell curve. On the far end there, you have people who don't know what they don't know. They don't know anything about digital transformation. They don't care that they don't know. And so they're not doing anything about it. And then there's 26%, a sizable percent of the business population that sees a need for digital transformation but hasn't really gone about it yet. Then there's a slightly larger group that's formulating strategy, that's in process of looking at what digital transformation means to them and their business and their customers, and is working towards it. There are fewer, but still a good amount, almost 20%, that are actually funding strategies to move forward in this way, or have an established strategy, and then a fewer group, almost equal to the end, that is on their way, that have budgets and know what they're doing, know what they want to do, and are getting there. And we're going to be talking about that today. But before I do that, I just wanted to point out what's at stake here. And this is a really sobering slide, I think, because what you see here is that companies who are ahead of the curve are doing a lot better than companies who are behind it. And this is manufacturing, so this isn't everybody, but it is an important advantage for you to embrace digital transformation and think about how a transformation can help your business and as you can see, increase your profit. This is also from IDC. I was at a conference just recently. It's a little hard to see, but these are all industry use cases that they have for digital transformation. This one over here is insurance. It's pretty big. Insurance and utilities, obviously, both very document-dependent industries, right? They depend on reaching out to their customers through documents. And over here, I've broken it down. I cut one of those slides out and I put it up over here, pasted it on, and here you see that 31 use cases in customer experience sort of leads the pack by a little bit over procurement and HR. So customer experience, digital transformation, very important in that particular line of business, and that's kind of what I wanted to focus on today. There's my circle. As somebody said earlier, the keynote, I think, technology extends the human. We know that, right? We're tool makers going way back to prehistoric days. We use tools to extend ourselves. And just as a car is a faster mode of transportation than walking, just as video conferencing is a better and easier, more efficient way of communicating with people over long distances, so too for customer experience, what customer experience is having a conversation with customers by other means, using technology. So this is according to the Harvard Business Review. They looked at technology gaps in customer experience, and what they found is that even though business leaders see the importance of digitizing customer experience, they're falling way behind where they think they should be. So if 87% see the importance of having visibility into the end user of the customer, 35% claim that they think they're doing a good job of it. And that's a pretty big disconnect. This one's really important too. 77% say that visibility and data across all functional areas is important, but only 26% say that they're effective at that. So we know that at least in the business community who's talking to Harvard Business Review, that there's a problem. And why is there a problem? Because of these guys. Because of the persistence of silos in businesses. Businesses build on a platform and they build up. They stack their technology, they stack their knowledge, they stack their departments, and they end up with these silos. So I have had the experience of meeting with different groups of people from the same company, and the first thing they do when they come into the conference room is they shake hands because they've never actually met in person before. And that's what creates these silos in a lot of businesses. And it's acknowledged, which is cool, right? We acknowledge that this is the problem. In this chart, what we see is that silo-bound cultures greatly exceeds the constraints that they feel by time. Time and lacking time is something that every business person knows is a drag, right? There's never enough time. And silo-bound cultures are even more devastating to the business than that. Okay? So this was marketing senior executives in the future of workforce in marketing. All right. So, excuse me. The way it may be to coordinate this data across the enterprise is to, and I'm really speaking very metaphorically here, and I understand that, is to get away from this idea of a platform where you're building these stacks and instead create a hub, create a centralized location where everything spins out of, and everything comes back into, so that your internal processes that are spun off of what you've learned in your insights create new assets for you in the form of data. Documents are data in action, right? So they go out into the world. Here are all your channels. The customer engages with it, gives you feedback on it. There's a lot you can learn. It goes back into the intelligent core. You get to analyze it. You get to use all your marketing analytic tools, your Salesforce.coms, your whatever else it is that you need, business intelligence tools, and that feeds the next go-round. And it's one continuous, never-ending, infinity-type circle, all based around this idea that you're going to have your a heavily orchestrated and integrated core at the center of your business. All right, so here I go for this case study. This was a company that is an IT service provider, provides CRM services, ERP services for mostly nonprofit and NGOs, nonprofits, and charities. Okay? Has a group of customers out there that utilize their services. They also do print for them. So they print their statements, they print direct mail for them, they solicitations, all kinds of stuff. And they're the company that I'm about to talk about. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to take all of that information that they had, make it available to their clients for their clients, and create a single place where their clients could basically reach into them virtually from all over the world, take what they need, and use that information in their next communication with their customers. So they send out a lot of invoices, statement, direct mail pieces, etc. They had used Microsoft Word. Actually, it was interesting, the session earlier on Microsoft Word. They used Microsoft Word to create documents, and then they had to figure out some way to get them out to people. And we heard all the problems with that people are having with using Microsoft for that purpose. Not to get down on Microsoft. They had a solution. They did have a solution. Their solution was built by a hero. And here again, I'm just going to digress for a second. Do you guys remember heroes in companies? Right? On the lowest level, it's the guy who knew how to fix the copy machine. And every time the copy machine was broken, you'd go to this one guy and you go, you're the only one who knows how to fix this thing. And the guy would go over and he would fix it. And he used to joke all the time. He'd say, if I get hit by a bus, nobody's going to be able to make a copy, right? Getting hit by a bus for whatever reason was the main thing that was going to stop that from happening. In this particular case, their hero created a tool, a software tool, that allowed them to convert Word documents into other formats that could be sent out in some kind of, en masse, in some kind of manner, in a multi-channel way. And I think when he realized how valuable he was to the company, he held them up for it. And they got into a dispute, and he left the company. And they didn't know how to do it. They looked at what he had created, and he created something that nobody could duplicate, nobody could work with, and they were stuck without a solution. And they knew that they had to come up with some kind of solution, because they were going to lose customers. They were not servicing their customers well at this point, and that their business was going to start going downhill because they couldn't keep up with other competitors. And again, this is a service bureau world. Just, I'm sorry, show of hands, service bureaus? You know what it is, but do you work for one?
No, I do not.
Oh, you don't? Okay. So those of you who don't know anything about service providers, they live on very thin margins, essentially. They don't want to spend a dime if they can't turn it around and charge the customer for it. That's the world that they live in. So they're constantly on the hunt for new ideas, but they're not going to actually plunk down any cash for it until they have a customer who they can charge extra to for the value that they're giving. Okay? So here are their challenges. They had a lot of old IT, basically. Bidirectional customer communications getting very complex. Right? We're no longer in a position where we just throw things out to people. There is that world. It does exist. It'll continue to exist, right? There's still offset printers out there who are printing lots and lots of stuff and sending it out. It's working. They're really cool. I've gone to their shops, these huge big boxes out there in the middle of the Midwest, and they're cranking these things out, and they have really cool equipment that does it, and they've got really creative people. So I don't want to suggest that, they're slugs or anything, because they're not. But they have to add bidirectional communication, or they're not going to last. And I think most of them know that. They also had to start being able to account for new channels that are coming on. A service provider that I talked to last year counted 12 new channels that they just had to accommodate, and thinking that there was going to be another one. So anything from a game console to a WhatsApp to any number of different channels, they're out there. The business is moving away from, I think what the last gentleman had said was, there's still print. Yeah, there's still print. You take you get a bill in the mail, you open up the envelope, you pull the thing out, right? You pull a statement or a bill out, you need to pay it, you look at it, you put it in the fruit bowl in the kitchen, and then, one day you get ready and you pull it out of the fruit bowl and you pay all your bills. People still do that. They also wanted to offer their service as a service, right? And so in keeping with that model, they had to be able to bring customers on board quickly, get them set up quickly, and so there wasn't a lot of downtime in between when a customer made a decision, we're going with you guys, and when they actually started sending out documents. And of course, being service providers, cost was always an issue. All right, so CCM, a term that you're familiar with? Everybody? Yes? Customer Communication Management. It's a term that was invented by Pitney Bowes and Gartner about 20 years ago. It essentially plays off of the term CRM, the acronym CRM, but it's communication. It's very focused on communication. And it's communicating all the channels. It's kind of, you have all your workflow, your CCM, your data in the middle, and all your communication out there surrounding it. So essentially, what they wanted to create was this hub, right, that I showed earlier. They couldn't articulate it that way, but that's really what they wanted. And they wanted to provide for their clients a way for their clients, who are, again, remember, nonprofit, non-governmental organization, and charities, a way to have conversations with with the people that they reached out to, the people that they had a relationship with. And so it was important to them that the interaction happened wherever that person wanted it to. Also with the understanding that that could change over the course of a day. That could change, right? They could look at a piece of paper in the morning in their kitchen as they were getting ready for work, and then decide, well, I want to take another look at that when they're on the train, and open up get their cell phone out and look at the document there. And then maybe when they got to work, they wanted to talk about it with their spouse, and they looked at it on their desktop. And then maybe when they got back home, sitting in bed at night, deciding whether they wanted to do something, whether they wanted to contribute to this charity or take some kind of action, they had to look maybe at their iPad or something like that, right? And all of these sort of transactions the document itself has to be consistent. It has to work on those, and it has to work on all of them at the same time. So they came to us and they said, we need you guys to come up with a solution for this. And the first thing that we thought of was, well, they want to be in the cloud, so let's pick a cloud provider. We happen to pick Amazon Web Services. Okay? We discovered that it allowed us to do a lot of experimenting and proof of concepts and things like that at a very low cost. We could provide the customer with what it would look like ultimately in the cloud. And then this was a build slide. It's supposed to be building. I went whale watching yesterday, and I had the whale moving at one point, but Duff made me put this on a PDF, and so he killed my build.
Irony.
Yeah. Because PDF's not good for everything. No, that's okay. And no lightning. But the idea was that we were going to use a Docker container to transform what we did for them in their centralized location to other locations. And there's load balancing and things like that. I think that's what these three green things are for, is load balancing. And so our company has a document composition tool that we've built that is not supposed to compete with any of the really big document composition vendors, but it has a couple of little assets to it, in that, number one, it was designed for digital first. Whereas most of the document composition you think of, Extreme, who's owned by, I think, OpenText now, Quadient, which is owned by Neopost, I don't know, and the other one, which is owned by Pitney Bowes, but then they sold it. It's hard to say. Those were made for print, and they added digital later on. This is made for digital first. That's a big advantage. It uses standards. And here again, I'll give a compliment to my German colleagues. Germans follow standards, where Americans don't necessarily follow standards. And it makes a really big difference whether you follow standards or not. Just kind of a cultural difference there that I've noticed. And that it's future-proof, and that you can create new channels all the time. This is kind of an odd, I don't know, you guys can tell me what you think. What you see is what you mean. And what this really means is that there's minimal formatting. The content is what matters. What you really mean to say to the customer is what matters, not the formatting that goes into it. So we've stripped out almost all of the formatting, and what we allow to happen is the channels themselves, they decide the formatting. And apparently they do that. And then we offered it using API economy. I'm sure you guys are more up on API economy than I am, but this is rapidapi.com. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. Rapidapi.com is a place where you can go, and if you need an asset with a few lines of code, you can access it. Pretty cool stuff. And so we used that, and we created a hub for them here, which extends into all our technology, but also using technology, Node.js and RESTful, can integrate with third-party vendors, can anybody who wants to can reach in and touch us and give us a tap on the shoulder and say, I need something, and the interaction happens. There's a really good flow to it. They're even able to add their, using APIs, their Salesforce and their Mautic or whatever else they want to from the outside world, and create this hub. And what happened was last week we went and visited the customer, and they're happy. They're happy with this, with what we did for them. And I don't know if you guys are Fawlty Towers fans, but Basil Fawlty and Fawlty Towers once said, "A happy customer, we should have them bronzed," because they're not all that rare. They're kind of getting rare. But yeah, happy customer. So nothing can stop you from making bad decisions on limited data points. But if you have the way to get the information in, you know, that's the technology challenge, and that can be solved very inexpensively using a lot of this extensible technology that's out there right now. And thank you very much.